The wind howled like something alive, gnawing at the edges of the frozen Montana plains, lifting spirals of snow that erased fences, roads, and all sense of direction. Yet Tom Maddox knew this land the way he knew the sound of his own heartbeat. He rode slow, keeping his horse tight against the rising storm, planning only to check the north water line before it froze completely. But then he saw something that had no business being out there. 6 tiny shapes, huddled together like a cluster of trembling shadows, half buried in the blizzard, their silhouettes shaking violently, as if the cold had already reached inside their bones. For a moment he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him, but then a gust tore sideways and he saw their thin coats, their trembling hands, their frostbitten faces looking up in panic the moment they heard the horses' hoof crack through the snow. 6 children, 6, not 1 or 2 lost stragglers, 6 little humans standing in the middle of a killing storm where even grown men froze if they lingered too long. Tom's heart slammed once hard when he realized the oldest couldn't have been more than maybe 12, and the smallest couldn't have been more than 3, bundled in something that barely counted as a blanket, her little blue lips unable to form a cry anymore. He urged his horse forward, breath turning to ice in the air. The oldest boy tried to lift his arms in a desperate attempt to shield the younger ones, but he stumbled instead, his legs too weak, and the boy's cracked voice rasped, "Please, sir." She fell. Our mama. She won't get up. And that was when Tom saw her, the shape lying behind them, half buried in drifting snow, as still as a dead thing. She had collapsed face down, long dark hair plastered against white ground, her fingers stiff and splayed as if she had been crawling, and simply couldn't anymore. Tom's stomach twisted with a shock so sharp it felt like a stab. How long had they been out there? How far had they walked? What kind of hell had they been escaping from to end up stranded in a blizzard with 6 children trying to keep her alive by sheer will? He leapt off the horse, boots crunching deep into the snow as he knelt beside her. Her skin was so cold his own hands recoiled. He turned her carefully, brushing ice from her face. And when he saw her expression, eyes closed, lips pale, lashes crusted white, he feared he was too late. But then, impossibly faint, he heard the shallowest hitch of breath, a fragile sound fighting to exist. "She's alive," he muttered, more to himself than them, but the children all gasped with hope, clinging to each other tighter, as if the words alone warmed them. "Help us," whispered the little girl with tangled blonde curls, her voice cracking like thin glass. "She said to keep walking. She said we had to keep walking." But she fell. She didn't get up. Tom didn't waste time with questions. There were too many, and the storm didn't care about answers. He scooped the woman up, stunned by how weightless she felt, like carrying the memory of a person rather than the person herself. And he gritted his teeth, fighting back a wave of anger, not at her, but at whatever circumstances had forced a mother to drag 6 children across a frozen nowhere on the coldest night of the winter. "Kids," he said firmly over the shrieking wind, "you stay close. Hold on to my coat, do not let go. We're going home." They obeyed instantly, stumbling after him, and he lifted the woman onto his horse, securing her so she wouldn't slide off. The smallest 3 children he lifted up next to her. The older 3 walked, using his coat for balance, their legs wobbling dangerously. Snow lashed at them like claws. The blizzard thickened so fast that several times he lost sight of the barn lights he was trying to reach, and each time he felt the icy breath of panic creeping up his spine. If they took one wrong turn, if they veered even 10 yards off the path, they could freeze before anyone found them. He forced every step to be deliberate, calculating angles from memory, every fence post, every stone he knew well enough to picture even when blind. When the ranch finally came into view, faint through the white swirl, Tom exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He pushed through the yard, dragged open the barn doors, and ushered the children inside where even the animals felt warm in comparison. He rushed them toward the main house, guiding them into the big living room where the fireplace crackled with thick cottonwood logs. "Sit," he ordered gently as he knelt to pull off frozen boots. "Stay by the fire. Don't fall asleep. I need you awake." The children all nodded, one crying silently, one shaking uncontrollably, one staring blankly as if her mind had shut down from terror. Tom carried the unconscious mother inside, laying her near the fire but far enough not to burn, then wrapped her in blankets up to her chin. Her face looked far too pale, lips tinged blue, and her breath came in faint, uneven puffs. He rubbed her hands, trying to bring color back, trying to coax life from a body that had nearly surrendered to winter's cruelty. "Come on," he whispered fiercely. "Don't quit. Your kids need you. Don't quit." The oldest boy knelt beside him. "She tried, sir," he said, voice trembling not from cold but from raw fear. "She kept telling us we had to get to someplace with lights. She kept telling us she was fine. But she wasn't. She wouldn't let us stop. She said if she stopped walking, she'd fall asleep forever." He swallowed hard. She only fell when she finally couldn't talk anymore. Tom felt something hot burn behind his eyes, and he forced it down. He needed to focus. He needed to keep these kids alive. He heated water, made warm broth, wrapped each child in thick wool, and moved like a man possessed because he knew the storm wasn't the only danger. Something had driven them into it. Something bad enough to make a mother risk crossing frozen plains with 6 young children and no supplies. When he checked on the woman again, he saw the faintest flutter beneath her eyelids, then a whisper, barely audible, Are my babies safe?" The words were so soft he almost thought he imagined them. But the boy immediately answered, broken, "We're here, Ma." "We're all here." Tom leaned close. "They're safe. You're safe. I've got you." Her lips quivered as if forming a warning, something she had carried through the storm, something that terrified her more than dying in the snow. But before she could speak, her breath seized and she slipped under again. Somewhere outside, the wind screamed louder, slamming against the window so hard the glass rattled in its frames. Tom stood, staring into the storm with a feeling he hadn't felt in years, a gut-level certainty that whatever they had fled from wasn't done yet, and it was coming. The storm raged deep into the night, drowning out every sound but its own fury. Tom paced the living room, unable to sit, unable to stop replaying the look on the woman's face, the terror, the exhaustion, the unspoken warning. The children, despite their exhaustion, stayed awake just as he'd told them, clustered like small animals thawing after a long freeze. The firelight flickered across their faces, revealing bruises he hadn't noticed before. Small purple smears along wrists, shadows at the edges of their eyes that no cold wind could have caused. He hardened inside. Someone hadn't just neglected them. Someone had hurt them. The woman stirred again, blinking weakly as she tried to lift her head. Tom knelt instantly. "Easy," he said, laying a steady hand on her shoulder. "You're safe. Your kids are safe." Her breath came shallow, shaking. She looked at him with a mix of desperation and confusion, as if waking from a nightmare and finding another one waiting. "Please," she whispered, You have to hide them." "He'll come." "Who?" Tom asked, voice low but urgent. The children stiffened behind him and the oldest boy's jaw tightened. Their mother swallowed hard. "My husband," she breathed, and the word sounded less like a person and more like a threat. He said if we ever left, he'd hunt us down. He said no one could take what belongs to him. I waited for the storm because I thought it would slow him. I thought it would buy us time." Tom felt a chilling sensation crawl up his spine. A man who believed 6 children and a wife belonged to him was not a man. They were dealing with a predator. "How long were you all walking?" he asked gently. "Since yesterday," she rasped. "No coats, no food?" "I told the kids to run. I stayed behind to slow him. Then I caught up to them." Her voice cracked as guilt shook through her. "I didn't think the storm would get this bad. I didn't think I'd fall." "You did what you had to," Tom said firmly. "You kept them alive." A sudden bang hit the front porch, loud, sharp, not wind, not snow. A knock, no, a pounding fist against wood. The 6 children froze as if they'd been turned to stone. Their mother's face drained of what little color it had, and she grabbed Tom's sleeve with weak, frantic fingers. "That's him," she whispered hoarsely. "Please, he found us." Tom stood slowly, every muscle tightening with controlled rage. He moved the children behind the heavy sofa near the fireplace. "Stay down," he ordered softly. "Don't make a sound." He grabbed his rifle from the mantel, loading a shell with the smooth, practiced motion of a man who knew how to defend what mattered. Another pounding shook the door. A voice followed, deep, slurred with fury. "I know you're in there. Open this damn door. Those kids are mine, and that woman is mine, and you're gonna hand them over, Cowboy." Tom felt heat rise under his skin, a protective fury he hadn't felt since the days he rode with men who believed in defending the vulnerable at any cost. He walked to the door, standing just behind it. "This is my land," he said, voice steady as steel. "You're trespassing, and you're not taking anyone." A cruel laugh came from outside. "You think I care about your land? I followed her tracks through hell. I'll drag them out myself if I have to." Tom didn't open the door. "You take one step inside," he said, "and you won't be walking out." Silence fell, thick, dangerous. Then the man began hammering on the doorknob, rattling it violently. Tom braced himself. The storm outside roared, wind screaming like a warning, snow slamming against the house as if trying to bury the confrontation before it began. The mother whispered from behind the sofa, voice trembling with both fear and pleading. "Please, don't open that door. He'll kill us. He'll kill anyone who stands in his way, please." Tom didn't look back. His jaw set, his breath steadied. "He's not getting through," he said simply, and he meant it. A moment later, the pounding stopped. Tom's ears strained in the sudden quiet. He stepped closer to the window, watching the shape of a man pacing on the porch, fury vibrating through his every movement. The stranger kicked at the railing, stomped through the snow, then shouted up at the storm itself as if daring it to drown out his rage. He started to circle the house. Tom tracked his shadow across the windows, rifle ready, listening for every crunch of snow. But then the sound changed, the crunching became distant, the shadow moving farther away. Tom followed it until it vanished into the white chaos of the blizzard. He waited. 5 minutes, 10, 15, watching, listening. Finally, he lowered the rifle slightly. "He's gone," he said softly. The mother broke into tears, not of relief, but of exhaustion, terror, and the realization of what she had escaped and what still might come. The children gathered around her, clinging to her arms, burying their faces against her. Tom stared at them all. One by one, the bruises, the trembling, the way they held each other tighter than children their age, should ever have needed to, and something inside him hardened into resolve. "You all stay here," he said quietly, decisively, "for as long as it takes. No one is taking you from this house. Not now, not ever." The mother looked up at him with eyes full of disbelief and fragile hope. Why would you help us?" she whispered. Tom glanced toward the door where the man had stood, then to the 6 children still shaking in their blankets. "Because no one," he said with slow, steady conviction, "deserves to face a storm like that alone." Outside, the blizzard screamed through the night, but inside the old ranch house, something stronger than fear settled into the room. Safety, warmth, and the beginning of a future none of them had dared hope for. And for the first time since the storm began, the 6 children closed their eyes not from exhaustion, but because they finally felt safe enough to rest.